Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro Rumble podcast. I'm your host and moderator, Mike Negrelli, and today we have the Spoony Bard, Aidan Simon.
You Spoony Bard, me.
And we also have, he's not a thief, he's a treasure hunter, David White.
Hello.
So Aidan, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I've been playing a lot of video games. The past month I've been playing Octopath Traveler, which is fitting for the topics of this episode, and I think I've got like 45 hours into it so far. I like it.
Awesome. I've heard that game is doesn't deal with like a giant threat that's going to end the world, and so it might not be as like epic as like certain RPGs that we might be used to. Is that true, or did I mishear things?
Yes, obviously, as you know, it's about 8 different characters. They all have their own separate stories that don't intersect at all. It's kind of like, so in a way, it's kind of like vignettes within an RPG universe. Without giving too much away, there are hints at like a shared conspiracy and lore like throughout the game, and like from what I hear, it kind of actually like it comes all together at the end. Like there's like a secret at the end that kind of goes into more traditional RPG fare.
Wow, all right. Cool. So David, what have you been up to? What have you been playing?
I've not been playing all that much, to be honest with you, but I have been diving deep into Metroid Fusion and Pokemon Blue as well. And I also went to another event, and it's quite funny actually because what
event?
This was Play Expo London, and the last day of it, day 2 was yesterday, so I literally have not long got back. And the funny thing is, I went down for the 2 days, and I only ended up seeing the second day because, and this is a pro tip for people who are going to events who aren't an idiot like me, really. If you don't go by the name of the building alone, look for the actual address, because that's what I did. So the event was in a place called the Printworks. And I discovered that in London there are 2 places called the Printworks. Also, in order to save money, I thought, I'll walk to the venue. It's fine. It's just a big city, and and you don't have the proper shoes for long distances. So I walked all the way to this one event, and one location called the Printworks, and I stood outside of it thinking, there's not much going on here. There's no signs or anything like that. And
sounds complicated. Did you ever find it?
Yes, I did. But by the time I realized I had gone to the wrong address, I had turned around and gone the other way. And then I just thought, I'm just too exhausted right now. So I ended up going back to my hotel, which was closer. When I got basically, I walked back in the direction of my hotel, and I thought, I'm just going to go to day 2. And I'm super disappointed because on day 1, it was a good event. I still enjoyed it. So day 2 was perfectly fine. It was great. But on day 1, I wanted to meet and see a talk involving the Oliver twins. And the Oliver twins created the Dizzy series. And I had a copy of Quick Snacks, a game that they created, and I wanted them to sign it. But of course, they were only there for day 1. So
wow.
Yeah, it was an adventure, and it was an exhausting adventure. Yeah, wow. And only that, in order to save money, I wanted to save as much money as possible. I didn't want to get any taxis or any Ubers or anything like that. I just walked, and I walked from where was it? Peckham to the location of the venue, which was in what was it called? I can't remember what it was called, but either way,
that's okay though. I mean,
it was a 2-hour walk.
The point is, you had a good time, right?
I did. It was still a great time, and there was a lot going on there. I didn't get to see as many talks as I wanted to. Well, I didn't see any talks, to be honest with you. I just wandered around, jumped on a few pinball machines, played a bunch of arcades. Couldn't really buy anything, but still, it was just a cool place to be, and it was a really big venue. So I'm looking forward to the next event, which will be in Blackpool in October. So I'll be attending that one, and for both days.
Awesome. Well. Basically, I have been, I'm still playing Yakuza 0, and 2 days ago, I hit my head, and I chipped my tooth.
Oh no!
Yeah, I chipped my tooth.
Dance Revolution. Yeah.
And then this morning, I got some work done, so it looks pretty normal now again. So
I was gonna say, did they fix it?
yeah, it looks okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine. Nothing's really life shattering about it.
Except your tooth.
And because
how did you do that?
because it was my fiance feels like it was her fault, and so she's been extra nice to me, and so that's been nice. So,
Aw.
but yeah, I guess
Can I ask how you did it?
I was just goofing around with my fiance, and we hit our mouths together. And
Oh,
she
no.
she has extremely strong teeth. She has really good genetics that way. And
That's a
guess
very
so.
odd compliment.
the way that I put it, it was like a Honda crashing into an SUV. She just smashed right through me.
Oh my.
That's such an odd compliment, isn't it? Do you know what I love about you? You have really strong teeth.
I mean, you can break another tooth. There must be something right about them.
Yeah, I guess so. I should probably brush my teeth more.
I've done something similar. I accidentally, actually, it's a bit weird. This is actually a bit horrible, actually. One of my ex-partners, she caught me off guard. She basically tickled me, and instinctively I brought my hands in, like a kind of like almost like a feet, like kind of like I went into sort of like almost like a kind of a fetal position, if you like. And in doing so, I accidentally hit her in the nose.
Oh no!
Yeah, she had a piercing on her nose. That made it worse. So with the piercing, like kind of like jabbed her in the middle of the nose, and yeah, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I felt so bad.
I accidentally did the same thing to my sister once. I accidentally hit her in the nose when she was like trying to like be annoying. So I understand the pain. Like, thankfully there was no like I didn't break anything or no bruising or anything, but it was funny but also sad.
Oh man!
Did you do that thing where you go like, oh, don't tell him, don't tell him, I'll give you anything you want?
Oh no, like my parents were there like when it happened.
Oh, right.
We're all just in our kitchen. And it's okay. Like I didn't do anything wrong. I was defending myself.
Oh man! I guess.
What would you, Mike? Have you ever accidentally hit anyone you love?
Have I accidentally hit anybody that I love? I'm sure I have.
Well, actually, you just say you headbutted your partner.
I haven't really hit anybody that I love, but I do have a memory of me being a kid with my brother, and him being like, "Hey, Mike, check this out," and I have no idea what he was trying to show me.
The old watch this.
I have no idea what he was trying to show me, but he just jumps off the couch and he breaks his arm. So I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea what he wanted to show me, but he showed me him in pain. That's what happened.
This conversation has devolved, and I love it.
What I'm thinking about now is like ways like my friends and family have injured themselves.
I guess we should move on to news then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do that.
On that
let's
note,
move on to news. First up, we have the news about the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie, just simply called Sonic. Apparently,
is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's just called Sonic. They dropped the Hedgehog.
Ah, interesting.
So it's the plot is going to revolve around a road trip to collect Sonic's rings.
Naturally.
Of course, that is very strange.
Yeah.
Not even the Chaos Emeralds, just the rings.
That's for the sequel. No, actually, I'd be very surprised if the Chaos Emeralds do not make some sort of appearance in some sort of like dramatic fashion, like Sonic. Sonic is sort of, looking defeated or something like that. He's lost to Robotnik or something, and someone turns up with a Chaos Emerald to give him that, to make him turn into his final form, and then he kicks Robotnik's butt or something that.
It's so funny that you bring it up in that way and you say it's going to make it a dramatic appearance, because it feels like to me the Chaos Emeralds, you could buy them at a thrift shop in the Sonic universe, it seems like, because you get them in every single game. It doesn't seem like they have any purpose to them anymore.
Only one of them is really important though, isn't it? Really, one of them is like a control. Is it the grey one or something, or silver Chaos Emerald? One of them controls the rest or powers the rest. I can't remember. I'm not for a Sonic fan, I'm actually not very up on the deep down lore.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know a lot about Sonic lore.
I wish I did actually. I should read the comic books. Apparently, it's quite dark. You know, like I think a friend of mine told me once that there was one episode or one comic where Knuckles' father dies or something like that. I can't remember what it's. It's like really dramatic or something. And
Knuckles
Knuckles
becomes God in the comics apparently.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
Oh.
I think like I don't remember I don't remember exactly. People in the comments and people who listen to this can correct me, but I think he turns green and can basically go anywhere in time and do anything. He basically becomes like the world's god or something like that. It's insane.
Are they going to do this in the movie? I hope so.
Do you think what other characters will make an appearance? Do you think because nothing's been confirmed? I mean, I
Yeah,
would love if Knuckles made a cameo.
I don't see how you don't. Like, I mean, like Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, Amy, like they're all iconic characters and like really important to the Sonic franchise.
And for a bit of sex appeal, they might bring in what's the face, Rogue the Bat. Is he Rogue?
Rouge.
Rouge. Yeah, Rogue.
Big the cat.
But no, the Bat.
No, Big the cat. What's his name?
Big the Cat.
Big the Cat. Big the Cat's
There's
probably
sex
would be
appeal.
a bit controversial because some people think of him as kind of like a stereotype, and some people might find him a bit of and some people might find him might not might be offended, especially in this day and age.
Well,
you can't really do much without offending one person.
To me, it doesn't matter who they include as characters, as long as they do a good story.
Yeah, this is where all those characters can really work, because one of the main complaints about the series is like nobody really cares about Sonic and his friends outside of Tails. Might be an exception. Knuckles is an exception. Anyone outside of that just seems extraneous, so nobody cares. This is probably something where all those characters could be utilized better than they could in any game.
Are you trying to tell me no one cares about Shadow the Hedgehog?
But he's so edgy.
I just have a question. Like, yeah, like is Sonic even that relevant of a like pop culture icon nowadays? Like, do you like?
Oh, the Flame Wars just started.
No, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm gonna be like, do you think a Sonic the Hedgehog movie is something that will work and be successful in because I think it's coming out 2019.
I think that it can be as successful as a Mario movie done by the Minions people, as long as they have the right marketing, the right audience for it, and the right team behind it. I think that I've said it before on previous video game podcasts, but whenever the problem with video game movies is that they forget to be movies first. Some of them just have like such bad plot structure, there's such cliche things that you don't like it, and it just doesn't end up being very good.
See, because I was gonna actually my second point, because like I guarantee the Mario movie's gonna be like do great at the box because like it's Mario, but I'm just wondering because yes, they're still making Sonic games, and like Sonic Mania was very well reviewed, but you just don't see I just don't see Sonic as just this pulp culture figure that he was in the 90s and kind of the early 2000s.
That's the
Sonic
thing.
has always been there.
The thing, though. He's a mascot. That's all he's really good for, is being a mascot.
But he's arguably a way more interesting character than Mario, though.
But I don't know about that, because like, I mean, when people think of Sonic, all they think of is gotta go fast. And like Mario's already like translated himself to so many different things already, like racing games or sports games, and like he's just like I don't know. I'm just wondering about like the appeal of a full like Sonic the Hedgehog picture.
I don't know. I would put Sonic up there with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers as far as like popularity. They may not be like the thing now, but everyone knows who they are.
They could get big again, like the Ninja Turtles.
I can see a resurgence from Sonic. I really can. Sonic Mania is doing very, very well. I think, isn't it? It's been reviewed well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it has. It's the best one in a while. You
might say it's. I mean, to me, it sounds like it's all coming up. Sonic, he's sort of like having a very slow resurgence, just sort of very, very gradually, and the movie will be the icing on the cake.
But the thing is,
I'm confident. I'm actually quite. I've become confident. I'm interested. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but the thing is that when you tell me that the people who make the Minions are making the Mario movie, I immediately have the picture in my head of what that can look like. I see that it's going to be a family-friendly romp that parents can bring their kids to. Probably going to make a lot of money. It has a chance to be pretty good. I need to know who's behind the Sonic movie for me to know if it's going to be any good. Like, when you tell me that Jim Carrey is going to play Dr. Robotnik, I have an idea in my head of what that's going to look like, and it doesn't look very good.
I think he's going to nail it.
See, I don't think the issue. I think the big issue is that they're trying to make it live action, like a live action CG hybrid. Like, I don't see, because like what they're doing the Mario movie, it's fully animated. I think they should have just gone fully animated with this movie because the world of Sonic is so cartoony already, and it doesn't. That really won't translate. Yeah, and like they already kind of tried to do that with the 2006 Sonic, is like bring him into the quote unquote real world, and it didn't turn out good at all.
Then again, yeah, did not kind of that's kind of what they did with Sonic Adventure, though, isn't it?
Yes, I was gonna mention that too. Yeah, I did, but like, I think, but like we like live action, especially when it comes to video game adaptations, live action does not work for a lot of these things. Like it just and I just don't know if anyone wants to see a CG Sonic running next to Jim Carrey, real life Jim Carrey.
I just hope they don't go. I can imagine them going toe to toe. I can't imagine like Robotnik, Jim Carrey, throwing roundhouse kicks or something like that, or trying to. Yeah. Obviously, that's not Robotnik's style. I thought he doesn't go. He's a bit of a coward. He uses machine technology to fight Sonic.
Plus, I hate to sound judgmental like this, but when I see names such as like James Marsden,
he's good.
Adam Pally, Neil McDonough. To me, it doesn't scream. It screams TV movie to me, quite honestly.
Really?
Yeah, the director has like one film in this
TV movie.
But so the one thing I was gonna say, like, this movie has I was gonna like make a comment, like, this movie does have a pretty good cast, like, so I'm actually a little surprised.
But so did The Legend of Chun-Li. Neil McDonough played Bison in The Legend of Chun-Li, and that was horrible.
But I feel like he's also gone a lot. He's like grown past that quite a bit.
Better than Raul Julia, surely. I don't get me wrong, I love Raul Julia. I mean, that was a bad Bison. I know we're slightly going off topic here, but
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next topic, I guess?
Yeah, let's not get dragged down by this.
Yeah. All right. Another news topic we have is that new Smash characters have been announced in the most recent Nintendo Direct. Simon Belmont, Richter Belmont, King K. Rool, as well as how many Echo characters? Two.
Dark Samus and Chrome.
Crom, yeah.
And Richter is an Echo Fighter too of Simon.
I think three of them,
right.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and they join. I think it was like Daisy and I can't remember who else was an Echo Fighter, but
basically everybody. I mean,
like half the roster is like going to be Echo characters.
Yeah, is Dr. Mario considered an Echo character?
No, because he has a different moveset. The thing with Echo characters, it's like they're like not the same moveset, but similar movesets and like controls, and like Dr. Mario's just a completely different character. Well,
I don't know about you guys, but I'm extremely excited about Simon Belmont and Richter Belmont. I'm a huge Castlevania fan. I'm also a huge King K. Rool fan. Those are the ones that I'm most excited about. Dark Samus, it just seems like a palette swap.
Yeah.
And I was never really into the Fire Emblem series, so Crom didn't
Sakurai is.
Move the needle for me. Oh yeah, Sakurai really is, but I think Crom will be the last of the Fire Emblem characters.
Yeah.
I have no opinion on Smash Bros. Whatsoever because I've not played a single one of them.
What?
I know, right? I knew I'd get the reaction. I've not played a single one. No.
Wow.
I watched a few videos and it looks pretty chaotic and fun, but I watched one video which was like Mario and Sonic, but it was controlled by AI. They were I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. They were just fighting better than any human could, or something like that. They were just fighting like crazy, and that's all I've seen of
do you think that there's anybody left in Smash that you want to see? Is there like who do you think is the last person who's going to be announced?
Oh, I'm not even sure. I don't even know the roster as it is. I mean, there must be quite a few because there's like 103 stages apparently to be able to be included in this one. The characters I would like to see, I don't know. Probably, I would love to see Dante, but he's in it, isn't he?
No.
No, okay. I know. See, I'm a big Dante Devil May Cry fanboy, so I think he's designed for fighting games. It's perfect. I honestly can't think of any other character. Ooh, what about Sam Fisher? Because obviously Solid Snake is there, right?
Oh,
Solid
yeah,
Snake.
yeah, he is. But wasn't Dante in the PlayStation All Stars game?
Yeah, okay.
He was in PlayStation All-Stars. He was in the All-Stars game.
Yeah.
And also, he's not really a franchise that's associated with Nintendo.
Yeah, there are heavy rumors that there's going to be that Isaac from Golden Sun's going to be in it.
Whoa, that's random.
Ooh.
And also with Sakurai's chairs in the background and pillows in the background, there is
Isaac?
a rumor. The rumor
so you're talking about
it's going to be Skull Kid.
Really? I haven't heard that one.
I didn't hear that. Can you say that again?
I think he said the
Skull-
rumor is Skull Kid.
From
Majora's Mask.
Ocarina. Majora's Mask. Sorry, yeah. Okay.
Because apparently with the chairs in the background and the pillows in the background.
Can I talk about characters I want to see in Smash?
Go for it.
Of course you can. You can talk all you want. It's a podcast. That's what it's for.
So-
First off, how has Miss Pac-Man not been announced as an Echo Fighter for Pac-Man yet? I feel like that's the most obvious choice.
I actually have a reason for you.
With
What?
Baby Pac-Man as a kind of power.
It's the same reason that Miss Pac-Man hasn't been included in Pac-Man collections in the recent past. It's because of legality.
But
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
they bought I thought they own the rights to the character now.
I don't know.
I
think I can't remember. The people who created the original hack
Yeah.
might still have the rights. I
Interesting.
don't really know.
Because I know they've used Miss Pac-Man in a lot of like other products, so that's really weird. If I mean, I don't really know him, not admittedly, so.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to be a cool character to add? Actually, sorry to cut into your list there.
That's
Aidan.
fine.
Doom guy.
That's been rumored. That we actually, yeah, no, I don't know.
Can we just give him a name?
Yeah.
It kind of bugs me when we call him Doom Guy. I know, like, that's just such an online. Nobody knows what he's called, so we just call him this name. You know, it's just give him a name, even if it's like, even if you have to retcon a bunch of stuff. Just say, oh, by the way, his name is Jim.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if he does have a name. Let me go
I
to
don't think
the.
he does. I'm sure I've unless something has come. I mean, obviously with the new games, they could have they
No,
fleshed
it's
out the
just,
story.
he's just Doom Guy.
Yeah, I think that's just stuck now. That's not going to go anywhere because now he is Doom Guy. It's not going to change.
I think that we should move on to the third topic. Emu Paradise is a ROM hacking site that has backed out of the business so that they can avoid a big lawsuit from Nintendo.
I mean, it's understandable since that's what they've been doing lately.
It's still there. I was out of curiosity. I wanted to see what would happen if I loaded up the site.
I mean, I know they said they are planning on.
must not
Maybe
have
it's not
actually-
like maybe it's like not like an effective immediately type of thing.
There's no news about it on the site either. I could be looking at a cached page. Let's try a page I don't go to. But
I mean-
but that is interesting because apparently the owner of the site wanted to duck out because he wanted to protect his staff primarily. He's employed them for a long time. They've been, I guess, loyal staff of his. So rather than risk them getting into trouble, he basically is going to be shutting down the site.
Yeah, it's understandable because I mean, we know all the story about Nintendo, suing all these ROM sites. So I mean,
I've
gotta
grown to
maybe
really
you gotta
hate it, actually.
duck out before because the money they're suing for is a lot of money that no person can really pay off. So with ROM sites, it's the only way you can play a lot of retro games because preservation is still an issue that's really big in the industry. Like, how do you save games that aren't remastered or aren't
games that like just maybe their companies no longer exist and they're just left to the void. Like, I mean, pirating these games is illegal, like, so is one of the only ways that these video games are allowed to continue to live, because a lot of the companies aren't really bothering with putting these games out.
I think but Nintendo, I would argue, probably have all of their games already preserved. So they want.
We don't know. I mean,
Well, that's how they resell them. That's how they resell them. So they put them onto Virtual Console, and that they obviously have a big database or a big backup somewhere. It could literally be a data stick.
There are still a lot of games that have not been released, that haven't been released. Like a game like to bring up an old top, like Mother 3 has not been officially released in North America, and that's the only way you're able to play a localized version of it is through ROM sites. And like before, only a few years ago, it was the only way you could play Earthbound without having to find an old SNES copy for like who knows how much. So there are still a lot of games like from Nintendo itself that there's no way to buy them.
Yeah, preservation is definitely an important issue that emulation helps with. It kind of is reminiscent in a certain way. When alcohol was made illegal, the mafia made it available on the black market. And so it kind of feels like emulators are kind of trying to do the same thing. They're fulfilling a need that isn't being served.
I'm gonna be honest, that's not the direction I was expecting you to take that. But, it is a tricky subject, because again, these are things that are effectively illegal, but there is this weird murky gray area when it comes to emulation. Like if you already own the game, like it kind of becomes a little murky there. But sometimes like there's no other way to play a game from like 20 or so years ago, and that's
only
just, like,
still illegal to download a game even if you own a copy on cartridge or disc or whatever. My issue with it is that I think it's a really dumb, pointless action on their part. I don't think they're going to beat emulation. Yeah, okay, they've taken down a couple of big websites, and one of them has bowed out. Arguably the biggest has bowed out willingly, but they're not going to defeat emulation. The ROMs are already out there. It's just no, if it's the internet, you can't beat the internet. That's
nothing dies forever.
Amazing. But there's copies of copies of copies of copies. There's so many ROMs on literally millions of computers out there. All it takes is for that to be uploaded again, and it's back online. Unless you wanted to police the entire internet or something like that, which is obviously never going to happen. You're not going to defeat piracy. It's like I mentioned on the last episode. I think one of the reasons why we have streamed content is because people were pirating stuff because it was cheap or free, and also it was available on their computers, so they had easy access to it. So basically, these streaming services wanted to beat the pirates at their own game, make it nice and cheap, and make everything available with a click of a finger.
Well, my issue with emulation is not even necessarily the legality of it. My issue of it comes into what it does preserve the game itself, but it doesn't preserve the way that you played it. It doesn't preserve the feel of the Super NES controller. How are people going to preserve Wii games in the future? Because I don't think that every Nintendo system from now on is going to have the nunchuck situation going on.
There will always be third-party solutions, though, wouldn't there? There'll always be some third-party going, hook this up to your computer, and you can play Wii games on your PC or something like that.
Yeah, this is a whole different topic, but I definitely think you are going to run into issues of there are issues of future-proofing when it comes to the Wii and DS systems specifically, since they have such specific technologies that are so specific to those systems. But that's also, like I said, that's a completely different topic.
I think as far as the old games go, isn't really that much money in it. I know retro games have had a bit of an annoying kind of resurgence of late, and I see that because bugs me because it pushes up prices for me, and I'm a collector. But it's had that sort of resurgence, but is there really that much money in it?
I'm-
Virtual console, that make a lot of money for Nintendo.
I mean, there probably is money to be made because Nintendo charges like $4.99 for Super Mario Brothers and like every system it's on, and how many people probably buy it. I think there definitely is, and like they just charged their NES Classic was $60, SNES was $80. There is money to be made, especially in this era of nostalgia we live in, where so many people have nostalgia for the 80s and 90s, where people are willing to spend money on things that are reminiscent of what was their childhood.
Well, I
It's
don't
a
know if
tricky
this is going to
subject.
be solved today, but I think we should probably move on to the reader mail. So our first question, Ahmed from the Discord chat, what is your favorite video game weapon?
Is there an order you want us to go in, or
Does anybody have an answer to
Whoever
that?
has their answer, I'm going to think about my
I have an answer.
possibilities.
Oh, go ahead, Aidan.
I reckon I know it. Can I guess it? Can I try and guess it? I feel like
I think you already know what it is.
I don't know if I do actually, but I'm going to have a guess here. Is it the? Oh God, I forgot what it's called.
Oh, no.
There's something sword from Halo.
Oh no, nope.
The energy
There's
sword.
a
Is
lot
it the
of it.
energy sword?
No, it's
Yes,
the
it's the-
Keyblade
The Keyblade
from
Oh,
Kingdom Hearts.
from
good
Kingdom
shout.
Hearts.
Because it's just like it looks cool. It also looks ridiculous, and like it's a weapon that would only work in a series like Kingdom Hearts. It's a giant key that you swing around.
Mhm.
And like I just
funny.
Wait,
It's
what?
kind of funny that his friend Leon uses the gunblade.
the Gunblade.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, the
'cause,
Final Fantasy is
that's
known for
along
it.
the same thing.
Yeah, and the Buster Sword from 7, which is like this just giant sword. So like I mean it kind of fits in, but like and also has like with the bit being a giant key, it kind of has like that little Disney like whimsy to it. And I mean
Yeah.
I think all the designs from that you can change are like really really strong. Like I mean I think the first one has some of the best designs of the Keyblades, but I don't know, it's such a weapon that's just so specific to that series that
It's iconic of the series.
yeah, and then like and it
Wow.
kind of like it's like Kingdom Hearts series is kind of like this. It is like this kind of like childlike. There's this like kind of like childlike wonder to the first game.
I get you.
and,
Yeah, totally.
and kind of the Keyblade is kind of part of it. It's just
Mhm.
like this giant weapon that only like. I mean, at first, like it kind of becomes more of a serious and dark topic in the other games, but it's this thing that only this kid would wield.
And then they try and make it more serious as the series goes.
Yeah,
And it gets
I mean,
kind of silly.
there's a whole Keyblade war, a Keyblade graveyard. It gets a little complicated.
I remember thinking that with Kingdom Hearts 2, because that really kind of went a bit nuts with the story.
Oh yeah.
The first one felt pedestrian to the second game, and I was like, "Who are these Organization 13? What?" And
Yeah.
I lost it at some point. I wasn't even the one playing it; it was my ex-partner who was playing it, and I was just trying to watch it and follow along, and I fought a couple of bosses for her and stuff like that because she would like rage quit hard. So I just like I took over at points, just to give her a break. I remember thinking, I have no idea who these characters are or what's going on.
Yeah.
This seems so out of place in a way.
On that point, I will say, like, you literally do have to play every single game in the series for it to make sense. And so there was a game on the Game Boy Advance that takes place between 1 and 2, and like nothing will make sense if you don't. I mean, you could probably play it without it, but it really gives a lot of context of who these characters are and everything. But I mean, even Kingdom Hearts 2 is like a coherent story pretty much. Like you can, but like it doesn't really go off the rails until after Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, quite honestly, those are the only two that I played.
Yeah, you really kind of do need to play
Same
like
here.
all the other handheld games to really understand
Earth by
what's going to happen.
Sleeve, and the ones with ridiculous names like 385 divided over 2. What is it?
Yeah, 358 days over 2. You got Dream
Oh,
Drop
right.
Distance, and then there's the collections, which is Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 HD, and then Kingdom Hearts 2.8 HD Final Chapter Prologue.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Which
God.
comes with a new story, Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a
Oh my
fragmentary
god,
passage.
kill me now.
That's specifically a Japanese thing, isn't it? Like a Japanese
yeah.
games, there's a preference for subtitles on top of subtitles.
Yeah, and like
they
like
do that a lot.
like Bravely Default, was it like Flying Fairy? And
I don't know.
became
The
Brave.
most
Okay,
fairies
look,
fly?
Bravely Default, which is a game on the 3DS. It's like a Final Fantasy influenced RPG by Square Enix. I think it was Bravely Default Final Fairy in Japan, and they just dropped that subtitle in America.
And I've also noticed that in like animes, the episodes will be like really long too. They'll be like 2 different sentences.
Yeah, and there's
Like this
exclamation
episode of
point.
Dragon Ball Z is Goku's last hope. Let's all put our hopes and spirits into the spirit bomb, or something like that kind of thing. David, do you have a favorite weapon?
I absolutely do, and I'll be honest with you, for a moment there, I almost forgot the name of it. For me, it's a sword from, I just mentioned it, it's a sword, and it's from one of my favorite video game series of all time, and it's the sword wielded by Dante, and it's not Rebellion, it's Alastor.
Ooh.
Okay.
Alastor's a beautiful, gorgeous sword, and I would love a replica of it. I find Rebellion a little bit boring. Alastor is a bit more in line with the original game, a bit more gothic, a bit more. Well, I was going to say a bit more Tim Burton. It's not quite Tim Burton, but it's Rebellion just seems a little. Rebellion's a cool sword. It's probably is standard, but Alastor is where it really began. That was the first sword he wielded, and it's just easily the coolest because it's just got this twisted handle. It's so again, it's so gothic. It's got this demon mouth with a blade coming out of it, kind of like a toothed grin. He's got little tiny bat wings, or sort of wyvern wings, if you like, or dragon wings coming off of it. It is just all round awesome, and it's a really deadly looking blade, and just I would even say it's not just the best weapon in my opinion, but probably the coolest sword in all video games. I'd say.
Well,
That's quite
honestly,
I'm not just saying that just to go into here like better than a Kingdom Key.
Oh no, I'm not gonna. Listen, I know Kingdom Hearts is like really
You
dumb.
can take your
but,
whimsy.
like, I'm not gonna,
like my
That's
metal
fun,
sword.
though,
Thank you.
Aiden. Don't
but like no, I'm
apologize,
just gonna say. I would say I don't have a ton of experience with Devil May Cry. The only experience I really have is with the DMC reboot, which I actually really like. So I don't want to open that. I'm not here to open that can of worms, but
Hey,
so.
don't be ashamed to like what you like.
I'm not.
I don't believe in guilty pleasures.
Oh, I don't find it guilty. I think it's a great game. I think it's a great action game, and I could go like this is not obviously not the place to talk about it, but like I just really, but like I've noticed when people I say I like the game, I'm like, really? And I'm like, I
that's
don't
a
really.
future topic.
You like
right there.
DMC? You like emo? You like
Okay,
Dante with
no.
brown hair?
The writing of the game is really not that great, but the gameplay itself is good.
Yes, and that's why Devil May Cry 5 is going to be so amazing. Because
So
that does look nice. That does look nice.
it's always been a really well-made battle system.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first game where when I was playing it, I remember playing the first game not very long ago. Not very long ago, quite a while ago. It was one of the first games. I think it might have been the first game I bought for the PlayStation 2. And I just remember playing it and I just feeling like a badass when I was pulling off these moves. It's, when you execute these, and of course then it's also kind of sucky when you swing at air. You pull off this backflip and you do this a stinger, and then you do this swing and you miss something, it sucks. But when you pull off these moves, and also your last sort of blow finishes off the enemy, it's marvelous. It's like when you played like Final Fantasy and you finish a battle on a limit break in Final Fantasy 7, say.
Yeah.
It's that sort of satisfaction, I love it when that happens. So like do any move really, or even a dodge. A dodge is even cooler, doing a backflip and running up a wall and jumping over an enemy and like smacking him down the back, just doing all these awesome moves and switching between styles like you can in Devil May Cry 3 as well. Awesome.
Yeah, if you're gonna pick your favorite weapon, Devil May Cry is definitely a good video game series to choose from. It's got plenty of good weapons in there.
Ifrit is good as well. Ifrit's like a pair of gauntlets, probably even more stylish because it's more of a hand-to-hand combat kind of weapon. It's also a pair of No, I don't think it's a pair of shoes. No, it's not a pair of shoes. It's got these like charged attacks and stuff like that. Really, really cool. yeah, loads of weapons in the Devil May Cry series. In fact, when you asked the question, I immediately thought of the amount I could select from Devil May Cry. It's quite.
That's
a few,
what I
but
really
no.
like. Yeah, that's what I like about DMC is like just the variety and customizations that was given to you in this game, and I feel like I
Some
probably
dumb
should
ones
go
as
back.
well.
Yeah, I feel like I should go back to like the original series. at some point.
It was one really dumb one. I was so disappointed by it. It was like a bat flinging guitar in Devil May Cry 3. I can't remember what it was called. I was so disappointed because when he got it, he put, the thing about Devil May Cry 3, it's arguably the best one of the series, but it's also a little bit too much Dante, if you know what I mean. Like Dante 1, he was kind of cocky, he was kind of brash, but he was confident, he was man of his word. And then in the second one, he was probably too boring. I know it's the latest in the chronology, so he's a bit more mature, but. This could have been a narrative thing. They could have made this choice, but in Devil May Cry 3, because he was at his youngest, he was way brash, way cocky, really kind of dumb in a way, and probably too much so. But then he gets this guitar, starts wailing on it or something like that. It's really like almost embarrassing, and then you think, oh, this is going to be really cool. It's this giant purple guitar, but it just throws schools of bats.
Well, I think that my favorite weapon in video games. I thought about it while you guys were talking, and at first I was going to say, oh, the joke answer, Donkey Kong's coconut gun, but no.
The taser from Cypher Filter.
No. I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, I really love Alucard's Chrysogrim. It's that really fast sword.
I just suddenly thought about it.
Like in the description, they describe it as like it was able to cut off the many arms of a demon or something like that, and basically it's so fast that you just basically spam the attack button and you're done for the rest of the.
It's like the panther, not panther, the tiger fist, is it in Aria Assault, where it's just like a blaze of. It's kind of like the 100 slaps of E Honda, but it's just like super quick attack. I did think of another weapon, the Claim Solace from. Assuming I'm pronouncing that right, from Aria of Sorrow is pretty cool as well. Another cool sword. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm not too familiar with that one, to be honest. What's it called again? I'm going to look it up.
You should definitely try out Symphony of the Night, and basically any game that you can play as Alucard.
Oh, it's also known as the Valman Way. The Chrysogrim is also known as the Valman Way.
Yes it is.
I recognise that because that's what it was called in Aria of Sorrow. It's a cool looking sword on its own. Not just in function, it's a really cool looking sword as well.
The reason why I really liked it is like just the function, the way that you use it. It can just basically like cut anything, and you just move across the screen, and you don't even have to worry about anything.
It's called the Valman Way, also known as the Chrysogrim, and means the Blessed Wind. And I'm just looking at the Castlevania wiki now, and there's a marvelous GIF rather of Alucard using it. So I see what you mean. It basically puts up like a wall. I mean a shield, and it almost looks like Alucard's not even moving because it's so fast. Obviously, so it looks like really like an effective sword.
Yeah. In fact, I was a little while ago. I was playing Harmony of Despair, and in Harmony of Despair, I was able to get that sword. I forget what it was called in that game, but I was able to get it, and it just like made the game so easy.
Yeah, the Claim Solace in game quite easy as well because it's like got a huge range, and the sword itself is actually absurdly big, and has with a few exceptions of a few enemies, it has quite a damage effect as well. Yeah. Oh, so it's also you can use it in what was it? It doesn't affect your agility, so you can swing it and run at the same time. No, doesn't matter. Anyway, good sword.
So, as much as this Castlevania talk is good, we should probably move on to the next topic.
Absolutely. Okay. Should we answer another question, or should we just move on to our main topic?
We could. We can move on to the new topic.
All right. Well, if you're tuning into this podcast, the The main topic of this podcast is the Final Fantasy series. And this is going to be a two-parter episode. Exactly. This is going to be a two-parter episode, and in this episode, we're going to cover the 1st through the 6th.
So the Nintendo era of Final Fantasy.
The Nintendo era.
Basically, yes.
Before they stabbed Nintendo in the back. No, really. It was not a malicious thing. It was simply a matter of like space.
Honestly, it was really before Final Fantasy. This is like before Final Fantasy became the phenomenon. Well, it was. I wouldn't say it is a phenomenon as much as it was, but I'd say like this is kind of before it was like the Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy
that we all know. So,
yeah.
Aidan, where did you start with Final Fantasy? What was your first experience with it?
My first experience with Final Fantasy, just as a concept in a series, was through Kingdom Hearts. At the time, I didn't know who any of these characters were, but
Really?
I was 6 when the first Kingdom Hearts came out. I was like,
that's interesting.
So that's kind of, and then I kind of like from there, I kind of learned about it. The first Final Fantasy I actually played was Final Fantasy X, the remaster on the PS3.
Well, okay.
So, and then like I kind of fell down like a rabbit hole of RPGs, JRPGs, Final Fantasy in particular. So like I started playing a bunch of the other Final Fantasy games. And so like 10 was the first one I played.
Oh, okay. What other ones did you play?
I haven't beaten all of them, but I have played all of them. So all of them.
Oh, wow. David, how about you? What was your first?
Well, I remember the first time I encountered Final Fantasy, actually. It wasn't actually me playing, it was a friend of mine. And he was... I didn't realize what he was playing at the time, but I remember him being particularly annoyed by it because I think he liked the idea of being able to control characters more. So when he had to take in turns, he would like freak out because he'd be like, "Come on, surely it's my turn," or something like that. And also, if an enemy used an attack like confusion or other confuse or sleep or anything like that was debilitating, it would frustrate the hell out of him. So I just remember just watching him play this game and watching him just rage almost the entire time. This was Final Fantasy VII, and I particularly remember him playing, getting particularly frustrated at the quite an easy boss as well. What is that 6-wheeled vehicle called that you fight on the end of the bridge just after you leave Shinra?
I don't know the name of it, but I actually like I did a replay. I've in the middle of a replay of Final Fantasy VII. That's actually where I'm at, so I can't remember the name of it though.
It's actually quite an easy boss, but it has one particular attack. I want to say it is sleep. Actually, I can't remember, but he just wasn't doing very well. He just wasn't very good at it, I guess. But of course, like I say, I was watching it and I didn't know what it was, but I was more entertained by my mate's reaction. And then, quite a ways down the line, I knew of Final Fantasy. I hadn't played any, and I had a PlayStation 1, and I saw this beautiful copy of Final Fantasy VII, and I just thought, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna buy this, and I had no idea this was the game that my friend was playing. Of course, when I got to that bit, it was fantastic. So that's where I started, which I think a lot of people do. Really.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people's like
a lot of people started at 7. And then oddly enough, it was a long time before I played any other Final Fantasy game. I would argue it was probably about 10 years ago actually, that I played Final Fantasy 4.
Wow.
And then followed that up with Final Fantasy 5 because I bought them both at the same time. And then after that, I played 8. So it's really 7, 4, 5, and 8 would be my personal Final Fantasy chronology. But Final Fantasy 4 is the one that I love the most because I've got it. I got the GBA version. And to have it on the GBA, and I love the GBA. It's one of my favorite consoles. It's probably my favorite handheld, actually. It's such a the SP. I mean, particularly the SP, not the original Advance. I'm talking about the SP, just for its compact. It's beautiful shape. In fact, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm holding it right now, with Pokemon Blue sticking out of it, and rather unsightly, but it's still pretty cool. It's easily one of my favorite. It's compact. It's beautiful, and to play something like this, like Final Fantasy 4 on it. on my many commutes to work, or on those nights that I
Oh.
can't sleep, or if I just feel like curling up on the sofa with no other light other than the screen on my phone. An RPG is perfect for those moments. And Final Fantasy IV, I just played to absolute death. I just played it and played it and played it.
I know exactly how you feel, man.
There's something so addictively brilliant about it, and I honestly am not sure I can even explain why I love it so much. I just think it's Final Fantasy 7 and 8. I just think are a bit more involved. I think you need to put more time aside for that.
It's the customization options.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little simple, but it's not too simple. I like the story. It's not too, it doesn't exactly blow people away. But I like the story of Cecil and his progress into becoming a paladin. And that's one of my favorite moments. 4 and 5 probably my top 2.
Okay.
4 is one of my favorites.
Let me see if I can explain why Final Fantasy is pretty good. Well, my experience with Final Fantasy is that, much like Aidan, I didn't get into it until much later. It was always on my radar. Well, when I was in college, I eventually had this roommate who had emulators.
Okay. Oh,
and
what a criminal!
Yeah,
do you call it,
and he made a copy of it and he gave it to me. And yes, and I always thought, oh hey, I've heard that this Final Fantasy series is pretty good. So my first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy 2 on the Super Nintendo.
Wow,
that's an interesting one.
Only it was on my computer. I later found out it was Final Fantasy 4. As we all know.
Yeah.
But then I found out that there was going to be an upcoming Final Fantasy fighting game known as Dissidia. And this is the original Dissidia on the PSP. And so I really didn't know
that was a fighting game.
Yeah, I really liked Final Fantasy IV, and so I just went on a binge, and I went from Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy, and eventually I played the first 10 in anticipation for Dissidia.
Wow.
So I went from Final Fantasy IV to 6, and then to 1 on the PSP, 2 on the PSP, 3 on the DS, 5 I played like a patched, an English patched emulation of 5, and then I went from there to 10, and then I played, it was City had come out that I played the PlayStation 1 ones. I played 7, and then I heard that 8 was terrible, and I heard that 9 was the best.
It's not
well, let me get to that, because I don't actually think it is either. But
I actually think it's very good.
I heard that 8 was the worst, and so I kind of avoided that one for a long time.
It's decisive. That's what it is. It's some people.
So then I played 9, and 9 was by far my favorite. And then
I meant divisive, not decisive. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. And then I went back to 8, and I got some enjoyment out of 8. But we'll get into a conversation about 8 later on. I think
that's a good topic. All on its own.
The topic of today is supposed to be on 1 through 6.
Yes.
So,
what's funny, I did have 6 in my possession.
Really?
I know we're talking about the first 6 here, but so I could have had a nice, neat history of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But I borrowed 6 and then ended up giving it back. I borrowed 9 and ended up giving it back. So because I'm the kind of person, when it comes to games like adventure games and RPGs, I want to put time aside, which is why I will not emulate a game or any RPG for that matter. I got no problem with other stuff, but for me, I feel like I'm missing out on part of the experience if I play something like Final 2 on my laptop or something. Or any device for that, any other device. I'm a bit of a. It's kind of dumb. I know it is. I'm a bit of a. I find it very hard to play a game on its not anything other than its primary intended platform. What I mean is, I only play a game in its original media form. So I will play, say, Resident Evil 2 on the PS1 and the N64, but I wouldn't play it on my laptop. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I've been holding out on it's been a constant thing. I've been holding out on Final 1, 2, and 3, 6, 9 and onwards, because I'd rather have the legit copies, because I just feel like I'm like that with most games, but because RPGs are such an experience, I want to play them in the way that they're intended, and that's why I've only played 4 games.
Oh wow,
That's interesting. Like, I mean, totally get where you're coming from. It's not something that's as important to me. Like, I've played Final Fantasy VI, I think, on the PS3 originally, which isn't the best way to play it but like now I have it on my SNES Classic, which I haven't gotten into that game specifically yet, but I'm really excited to try it on that, because that is the original version of the game. So I do see where you're coming from.
Well, I mean, I don't mind like emulation on other platforms, but I mean, like, I just don't want to play it on my laptop.
Which is fair. Like, it's a
I
completely
played
different
mine on
experience.
the desktop. I played 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6 on the desktop. Everything else was legitimate, but 4, 5, and 6 were the only
but
ones.
I just think the older the game is, the original format is where I always will aim for. And again, because they're such big games and because they're so important, I just want to play them in the truest original form.
Yeah.
Plus I own
PS3 version, fine, but I'd rather go for the NES version of say Final 1.
Plus I own Final Fantasy IV on the PSP now. That game is amazing on the PSP. It's up-res graphics, and it's still in the 2D. I didn't much care for the graphical style or the voice work of the DS release of Final Fantasy IV.
Ooh, I can't wait till we talk about
3D.
4. Because that's how I play. I played 4 on the DS version, and I absolutely adored it. So, but like, that's a different conversation.
Well, okay. While we're on the topic, then let's keep on this line of thought. In the Metal Gear Solid conversation we had last week, we started with Metal Gear Solid 2. Let's start with Final Fantasy 4. What's our opinion of Final Fantasy 4? What's the best version? What's your favorite character? What's your favorite moment? What's your favorite music? Let's let loose on Final Fantasy 4.
Well, I mean, so obviously, I mean, if you haven't played the whole series, it may not be as significant, but it is the first game to use the active time battle system, which is the battle system that's used all the way until Final Fantasy IX, I think, is the last one that used it. It's
said though, it's a great place to start.
Yeah,
it's a great game to start with. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so like that, it's important for that on its own, because the active time battle is probably the most iconic battle system. It's what's used in the most maybe what some consider like the most popular period of Final Fantasy, like 7 through 9. Like, that's what's used then. But I'm not. But besides that, I think it has, like you said, it's a great story. It's a little more intimate of a story. Like, not really. It's like not epic, but it's like a little more smaller scaled, and it's a very emotional story too. Like, you get Cecil, like, his growth from this working for this evil empire into turning into a hero. I think it's a very strong character arc, and I think
Kane's a great character as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think all the characters in this game are really well developed. All the main characters are well developed, and I do like how like the party kind of switches in and out, like, as you're playing. Like, it kind of takes like when you're saying it's a little less involved, like, you don't have to worry about party management or like party customization. Like, I like how each character has their own defined character class. Like Rydia is the white mage, and Rydia is the black mage and the summoner. Like, Cecil's the knight. I think she's a summoner,
wasn't she?
She was a black mage.
Well,
too,
she starts out with white magic and black magic, but then later on, when you meet her later on,
the older version,
the older version, she becomes a summoner.
Yeah, and
what was she called before that? She was given some sort of like a lesser title before summoner. Wasn't it Conjurer or something like that?
She was just a mage.
Was it? I thought she was given some other lesser sounding summoner title, like.
I don't think titles were really that important in Final Fantasy IV. like
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really have I don't think they had like specific. They weren't like specifically called this class, but like had their own class.
yeah, like Kane I think was the only one whose
Mm.
class really mattered
Yeah,
because
he was a dragoon.
he was from like a class of people who had like he was like
Yeah.
one of the last people in his I don't want to call them a race because dragoons are not a race.
There's like the line, like they're kind of like an army kind.
They're
of.
an infantry, yeah,
Yeah.
a line of infantry. But yeah, and I got to admit, one of my favorite parts about Final Fantasy IV, and really the reason why I got into Final Fantasy to begin with, and it really bums me out that they kind of took this away as they released newer games, but you could name your characters. And
I never did.
I never did either.
I always
Seems wrong. It's like
did.
Pokemon. I can't name
I
them.
always did whenever I had the chance because it always made me so invested when it was me and my friends.
I might give one character a dumb name just so the dialogue is a bit funnier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some really immature, stupid name.
Like it's for this probably we can talk about this. Yeah, we can talk about this like next episode when we talk about episode 9. But I did that with one of the characters in 9.
Oh yeah. I did it with every single one that I could, and it bummed me out so much in 5 when you could only name you and nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reason why you couldn't do that in 5 was because it was, I guess, it happens at the like near the beginning of the game even, but it's like supposed to be a surprise that one of your party members turns out to be a woman. And they made it so that it wasn't a surprise in the Game Boy Advance version because they gave everybody portraits.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're looking at them,
interesting.
And the Game Boy Advance version ruins the spoiler because from the moment you're introduced to, okay, I'll just say,
Rosa?
No, Ferris.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say they spoil that. I wouldn't say.
Well,
I see what you mean now. Yeah, because they kind of make a kind of strong and, shall we say, very stereotypically unladylike in a way, where she's like she's the leader of a group of pirates, and they kind of like, don't they call her Sir? I'm sure at one point some characters, some of her crew call her Sir.
Well, she's like the head of a crew of pirates.
Wasn't she like she was like raised as a male? Wasn't she like?
But they definitely portray her as. I don't think they portray her as a strong woman. I think they portray her as a male, or at least they may be playing on people's stereotyping. So they see this like pirate, slightly feminine looking in the portrait. But then again, a lot of characters in their portrait, in their Amano portraits, not Amano. Yeah. Wait, no. Was Yoshitaka Amano?
I think it was Amano.
Yoshitaka Amano, yeah. Yeah, a lot of his portraits, a lot of his art is the characters are very effeminate, very feminine looking. So I'm trying to think of my first encounter with this because I'm trying to think, did I suspect or did I? But I feel like there was a point where they did kind of. It might have been a bit more of a revelation in other versions, but I don't think they completely ruined it entirely. Or that might be my personal experience. Maybe I just thought, could be a girl. I'm not sure. I honestly can't remember. But I remember being somewhat surprised.
Yeah, well, the version that I played was a patched version of the Japanese Super Nintendo or Super Famicom version, so it didn't have the portraits. And then when the male party members watch her sleep and then like think like that she's pretty, I was really kind of like, okay, so they're like that, I guess. And then like later on, it's. They find out, oh, it's a woman.
So it's okay.
That's
literally what they do.
They are just as surprised as I was. And so it's not like they knew that it was, or it's not like they knew it was a woman. They're just like, oh, that's a. Pretty looking guy. What is everybody's experience with Final Fantasy 1?
Nil, to be honest.
And going to this, I realized I was actually a little wrong because when you were talking about I actually played Final Fantasy 1 on the PSP, the remake of it, before I played Final Fantasy 10. I just didn't really get as into it. And I played it after. I played another version of it later, but that was actually the first Final Fantasy game I played was Final Fantasy 1 on the PSP.
I wish I started that way. No, not on the PSP, but I wish I had the foresight a little bit to say, like, I'm going to start this series from the beginning.
That can be kind of a trap.
That would be an investment of time as well. I can't imagine myself doing that.
Yeah, because I didn't play them all in order.
It's not necessary, is it, really? But
no.
I love the series, but I could admit that Final Fantasy 1, it's a good game, but it doesn't really hold up as well as you might hope.
I could guess that it doesn't.
It's so different from the other games in the series too. Like,
I've also heard it's very, very hard. Like absurdly hard. Like it's
it can get pretty hard. Yeah, it's like because there's a story there, but it's definitely not as big of much important as it is in the later games. Like the playable characters are just you pick. How the game works is that you I don't know if you know about it, but you have a selection of party classes, and you pick you pick 4 of them. Like you can pick any combination number of classes you can, and you give them all names, but that's your party. Like that's the extent of it.
And they basically evolve one level, pretty much, don't they?
Wait, what?
Well,
not evolve. That's not the right word to use, but they basically go up a class.
There's a side quest that you can take part in where you get the rat's tail for Bahamut. And when you give him the rat's tail, he turns the warrior into a knight. He turns the thief into a ninja. He turns the black and white and red mages into black, white, red wizards. And he turns the monk into a black belt.
Yeah. So, but there's really no they're all silent characters. There's no development or story arcs in the game. It's very basic. Yeah,
and weirdly enough, I still liked it more than 3, even though.
Sorry.
Because I know from what we've talked about so far, you guys are a huge fan of the job class. The job class system. The job class system was in 3 and 5.
Yes.
About the ones that we're talking about anyway, 1 through 6.
Yeah.
But 3 and 5. I thought that the 5 battle system was really good, and the class system was really awesome. Even if you in 5, even if you made your party certain job classes, you could attach other skills onto that. What if you want your white mage to know some black magic, then you can add an ability on there so that they can do some black magic. If you want your summoner to be able to,
if I remember, in 5, you could basically max out that talent and that ability rather, and you didn't necessarily have to do anything. You can just basically tell them to start working on another class, but they would always retain those abilities. And I remember going into the final battle and having a bunch of, I would call them grey mages, and they were basically all a black mage with a new holy and full cure, full life rather, and then a white mage that knew in meteor or and stuff like that. So I'd have these
summon.
Yeah. I'd have these like 3 grey mages who are basically all super white mages and super black mages combined. But like 2 of them are white mages that knew there were effectively black mages as well, and a black mage that was a white mage as well, just to make it look different. And I'd have like a samurai as well, just because they can cast Zenonage. And obviously, if you play Final Fantasy V. Anyone who has played Final Fantasy V is that is a very good, effective way to take on the final boss battle, is to basically throw coins at them at X-Death, and it does like crazy damage. But it's one of those really dumb things that not dumb, but brilliant in a way, but also kind of silly things that the Final Fantasy series is almost famous for, where there's many boss battles that you can basically knock out with a single blow. You just got to know. But that isn't necessarily a one-hit thing. In Final Fantasy V, I think it takes a good 4 or 5 goes. But X-Death's attacks are so brutal that your one party member is almost always knocked down during one or 2 attacks. So that's how I went about it. I'd have like these grey mages, and they would be healing, constantly casting either Holy, Full Life, while my samurai is throwing Zenonage. So, I love that customization of Final Fantasy V.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you. I'm not a huge fan of the job class system, but I felt like Final Fantasy V did a really great job with it, and that's kind of the reason why I didn't really much care for 3 all that much. Mm-hmm. The story was just as basic as Final Fantasy 1, and then it had this tacked on job class system that just wasn't as complex as the Final Fantasy V one.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Does anybody have an opinion on Final Fantasy?
On what?
3 have not played it.
On 3?
Yeah.
Sorry, you kind of cut out for a bit. I like it. It's definitely, I think it's like a good game. They do add I played the DS version of it. They do add a little bit more of a storyline to it.
Yeah, me too.
But like what I like, my whole thing is like when I talk about job classes, like I like when characters are like locked into a job class. Like that's like each character has a specific class. So I do appreciate the level of customization that a game like 3 allows you. But it's just not personally it's not like one of my top Final Fantasy games. It's like somewhere in the middle. Like it's definitely not bad.
And honestly, out of the ones that I've played, 3 is probably near the bottom for me. But that's not to say that it's bad. I like it. I like it. I think it has some good things about it.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about 1, we've talked about 3 and 4 and 5. Has anybody played Final Fantasy 2?
I played a little bit of it. Not a little bit, but I played part of it, and I don't like it.
Why?
Yeah, the first time that I played it, I really liked how you could kind of manipulate the system and kind of break it a little bit.
Yeah.
So that, like, your characters can be as strong as you want or as powerful and magic as you want.
Yep.
It can really be manipulated. You can.
Oh yeah.
You can have your characters hit each other so that they become more proficient in guarding against attacks and more proficient in using the weapon that you're hitting your own people with. But I revisited it recently, and you're right, it doesn't really hold up all that much. In fact, the story is quite basic. It's a better story than 1 and 3, quite honestly.
Because there is a story, like more of a story, because there are like characters there, like character
yeah, there
arcs.
are actual characters, and 1 and 3 didn't really have characters.
No, they have like they have avatars.
Would you say then that 4 was arguably the first one where a story was like more? It was more of a focus on story, more just genuinely interesting and good story. Still basic, but
I would say that too.
Actually, generally, what would you say would be the first game where the story was just good? It was like
where the story was good.
Basic. Yeah, it wasn't like a kind of like a skeleton of a story. It was actually like good fleshed out characters, interesting characters, really good story. Lots of lots of arcs and stuff like that.
I will say, yeah, 4, but I would say 2 was really the first, was like when the story started becoming an important part to the series.
But it was basically Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yeah,
But
it
I mean,
didn't
then
stick.
again, a lot of stories are Star Wars: A New Hope.
I mean, I think Final Fantasy 12 is like just Star Wars, but I like it didn't stick after 2, but 2 was like the first signs of like stories and characters being an important part of the Final Fantasy franchise. Which, I mean, yeah, it went away in 3, and then 4 is like when it really came back and like it stuck.
Yeah.
4
And
has some of
was-
my favorite characters. I love, actually, I just want to say, out of all of the iterations of all the versions of Sid there has been, 4 has my favorite. That bespectacled, or begoggled, I guess.
The old guy who was
Sid?
Yeah, there's always a Sid, isn't there? I think
Yeah.
my favorite Sid, my favorite Sid has to be the big, rough, bearded, begoggled airship technician or engineer. He's something really heartwarming and lovable about him. And he also turns badass in one scene, spoiler alert, where he basically just jumps into a volcano, pretty much. And survives, by the way.
that was my problem with Final Fantasy IV, is that like none of the deaths matter because none of the deaths happen.
Because there was a which one was it there also? Yang rather.
Everybody
did something
sacrifices
similar.
himself and then ends up not dying.
I mean, yes, it all got done, but like with the twins, Perome and Polam, they sacrificed
so
good.
themselves.
That was
like,
genuinely great.
That really hit me. And like I played the DS version, so it was like a full like animated cutscene they did to it, and like it hit me.
I remember when I saw that because I didn't think it was going to happen. I remember I kind of knew what they were going to do in a way. I thought, but when they sort of went to stone, I didn't know they were going to turn themselves to stone. But when they actually did, I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, there's going to be some sort of sub thing that I can do here, or some sort of quest that I can do to get them back."
Yeah.
But what is brilliant, cure doesn't work either. Or any form of curative magic does not work because they did it willingly.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of amazing. I just think that's such a brilliant touch that, you know, they turn themselves to stone willingly, and you can't override that. They chose to sacrifice themselves, and you can't take that away. I just think that's beautiful.
And
yeah.
So
guys, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, do you think? I feel like should we just like turn this conversation? Since the only one we haven't talked about yet is like 6. Should we?
Oh yeah, I was just about to. Actually, that's just what I was about to say. Let's talk about 6 so that we have time to, and maybe next week we can go into more detail about everything. Basically, we can talk about our favorite music and all our favorite everything. But let's talk about 6.
6 has been on my wish list for so long. I've not played it, but like I say, I had that copy of it. I sat down and played it for like an hour, and then I kind of, again, I like I say, when I play a game, any big adventure game, a game like say Fable or any Final Fantasy, any RPG for that matter, I want to invest my time. And when I had Final Fantasy 6 and 9 in my possession, I never really felt I had the time that the game like that warranted. So I had like played an hour of Final 6, and then a week later, you know, my friend goes, "Can I have it back now?" And the same happened with 9. So I've been wanting to get my hands on a copy of that game for so long.
Oh, that's not fair, your friend.
Yeah, I would try to find a way to find it, because like it is. I mean, many people consider it to be the best, like not only the best game in the franchise, the best JRPG ever made. And
I hear a lot of good things.
Yeah, it's just
especially in America. I think that sentiment is more true in America. For some reason, it hasn't been as popular in Japan.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's so epic in a way that like a lot of RPGs, especially from the 16-bit era, aren't. Like they're so like, I mean, just some like, I mean, they could make the argument that maybe too much, because like there's like I think 16 characters you can have in your, like you can recruit. There's not really, I don't want to go into too much spoilers here, but there's like the halfway point of the game pretty much changes everything. Like there's a whole new map to discover and explore, and just the story itself. I think the villain Kefka is one of the greatest villains
love
ever
that
made.
story.
Like,
Absolutely.
I've not played it, but I love how he. Well, I don't know if I want to spoil it. I don't think he's going to spoil it, but I know more or less that. Well, you guys have both played, haven't you?
yeah,
absolutely.
So spoiler alert, like, how he goes from being basically a complete oaf
Mhm.
to a genuinely destructive, world-threatening force, a god, doesn't he?
I was
Just
gonna
goes
say,
from
he's
that.
Well,
literally
I
the
don't
god.
think he was ever an oaf. I
Well, he
think
put
that-
off that's the image he put off. He projected.
Well, he's kind of a goofball, right? He's kind of like a joke in a way. Like nobody took him. Like I don't know if that's the case, but I would assume that nobody really took him as a threat.
It's like
No.
he's an example of what happens when you give a psychopath power.
Yeah. And like he pretty much creates the world in his image, like twisted and destructive, which is who he is as a character. And like, I mean, we need to talk about that laugh. Like, even if you don't play that game, you know that laugh.
Yeah,
don't.
absolutely.
Genuinely creepy.
I actually don't know. I'm looking forward to that even more now.
Oh, don't make me do an impression of it. I'm not going to.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you a link and you're gonna listen to it because it is like it's genuinely creepy and unsettling. And like
And it's on Super Nintendo.
yeah, and like I was gonna say like music in this game is and sound design is such an important part of
Actually-
the experience itself.
Mike just made me think of something.
If we're
man.
going to talk about Final Fantasy VI, Kefka, and the ending and everything like that, that final boss battle, man, how it mirrors Dante's Inferno. Oh my gosh! I mean, it's a four-phase fight, and you start out. The first phase is
I love epic RPG battles. I love that stuff. Final Fantasy really
phase
takes it and runs with that.
Yeah.
The first phase is you fighting off against Hell, and then the second phase is
Actual
you fighting off against. Well, I mean, you're fighting the tower basically.
Okay.
And then the higher you get in the tower, the second phase you fight is Purgatory, the third phase you fight is Heaven, and then you fight Kefka as a god, basically.
Yeah, he's like
And
an
it's
angel with
really
like wings
amazing.
and everything.
Even the name Kefka, it sounds like a genuine sounds like the god of some like psychotic cult, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
just got this kind of like whack to it. It just sounds nasty, but without being over the top. You know,
Yeah.
it's got the same kick that sort of Satan has. You know, it's got that kind of, I can't describe it, but it sounds evil.
Yeah, he literally is evil. He has like no like how some villains like kind of have their like quote unquote
Empathy.
redeeming qualities. He has none of that.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Sure,
I mean, he's like the only villain who like really wins, which is, I mean, that speaks something to his character.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike made me think of a question a moment ago because, like I say, I want to get my hands on Final Six. And it's way up on my wish list. But which version would you say? Would you say the PS1 version, or I mean, I only want to go down that road. I don't want to run anything else. I would want the PS1 or the Super NES version. Which would you say is preferable?
I have an opinion on that.
Yeah,
Go for it.
Any version is fine, except for the iOS version. Don't do the iOS version.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I wouldn't
I
want any
also
other
have
form other than
another,
PS1 or Super NES.
and I have another thing. Don't get the PlayStation version if it's the only way you have to play it.
Really?
It has like a lot of FMV cutscenes which are really cool. The load times are really bad. It's like the issue that's like I don't know if that's something you like that bothers you or not, but like they're really bad. Like that's like they're like
Well-
the PS1 version ports of like the 16-bit RPGs like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI are like notorious for their load times between like screens and battles.
Yeah, but you said that you had a Game Boy Advance, right?
Oh yes, of course. I forgot about that.
I would recommend if you're not
Yes.
going to get the SNES Classic or the SNES Mini or something like that, then definitely go for that.
Sure, I'm thinking because I got like Final 4 and Final 5 on Game Boy Advance. I might as well just collect the trilogy and just go for Final 6 as well, and have that as well. In fact, I'm just gonna get all three. That's probably what I'll end up doing anyway.
And the translation has been updated for the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah.
Right, I'll probably start there then. I mean, I kind of want to get the Super NES versions of all of them, and the NES versions as well, of course. The Super NES version of Final 6, and generally NES and Super NES versions of any of them really are quite hard to come by. Unless you look online, of course, which I just don't do. So the GBA version would be a nice sort of... especially if I can get a boxed copy as well, that'd be sweet.
And the thing is, like, some of these games have not been released. Like the NES versions have not been released in English or America. So, or I mean, you're not American,
or
but like, they're not
London.
English. Yeah, or West. They have not gotten a Western release, I suppose, is the correct term.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in terms of playing it, like, I don't know how well your Japanese is, but that's also a consideration.
Not
but quite honestly, if you're looking, I would definitely consider for you. I would definitely consider for you trying to find the SNES Classic, but for you specifically, probably the Game Boy Advance.
Generally, I mean, like I said, one of the things that contributed to my love of Final Fantasy IV was the fact that I had it on GBA, and I was able to sort of basically curl up with it. And on several occasions, I actually managed to miss a bus because I would just whip it out and play it, but I would just get so into it. I would say it was arguably the Final Fantasy IV that gripped me the most. That really, I really genuinely found addictive. There's something so marvelously. It's not too unfriendly. I think it's a good game to start with. I think in the final series, and because I had it on a handheld, it was just I was playing it whenever I had. I was going to the toilet. There it was. I was jumping on again, waiting for a bus. There it was. I was going to bed. There it was.
Oh no! Yeah, I definitely think
about the Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 because I played that on the PSP.
Yeah, I think portable because like when you're gonna sync it, like when RPGs are like they're hours long and so I think like and there's like sometimes you just don't want to sit in front of a TV for like 30, 40, 50 hours like and that's a short RPG in front of a TV and like that's why I think I'm like love Octopath Traveler so much is that it's on the Switch so I can just take this anywhere and just dive into this RPG anywhere I am.
Yeah, and not to give you a sneak preview of next week, but that's kind of why I tried to... I bought Final Fantasy IX on the PlayStation Store for PS4, and it's my favorite, and yet I can't really get back into it. And the reason why is because the first time I played it, it was portable. It was on the PSP.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Final Fantasy, if you can play it portably, I just whipped through the PSP version of Final Fantasy IV. Amazing.
I've had so many opportunities to buy 6 on cartridge only, but because I'm so obsessed with box copies of games, I kind of like have that kind of reaching for it moment, and I'm just like, no, I can't. It's not wrapped in a lovely box. So when I get my hands on a nice, lovely box copy, I feel like I'm missing a part of the game if I don't have the box. I know it's kind of silly, but still, it's hard to find it because cardboard's not exactly invincible. So, But no, if I was to get a copy, I think I would get the GBA version. Just for that portability, and because that's why I loved Final 4 so much, is because I was able to take it with me everywhere. My
So-
opinion may change if I played like Final 8 and I took it everywhere or something. But I kind of doubt that because I find I played Final 4 so much that I know it so well that I just find it so almost relaxing to play in a way.
Yeah,
Um,
it is relaxing. It's a
Music
comfortable
is good
game
as well. Joyce, it's got my
Um,
favorite boss theme.
Oh, which one?
I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Incidental Battle. No, wait. I think it's
is it
just
the
called
boss
Battle
battle,
Theme.
or is it the main? Or is it like the regular battle, or the boss battle, or the?
It's
or
it's
the
a it's
Four
it's a
Fiends
secondary
theme?
theme. It's
Is it the Four Fiends?
no. Oh, I do love that too. But no, this is a kind of, well, actually, it plays when you meet your first boss. You know, your first boss is, if I remember correctly, is you meet that big hulk of a golem. Yeah, yeah. I love that. It's something so dramatic about it, and it genuinely feels like perfect fight music. I can't describe why I love it so much, but it's perfect for boss music, in my opinion.
Okay. I think we are about out of time. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to wrap up with? Is there any last words about the first 6 Final Fantasy games?
If you've got a GBA, try and get your hands on Final 4 and Final.
Final 5 and Final 6.
Or Final. Well, I can't. Yeah, I can't.
Honestly,
I can't
I
comment
think-
on 6.
I think all of the first 6. I think they're all on Game Boy, the GBA. I could be wrong. I know 1 and 2 are. 5
1 and 2
is.
are.
4 is. I'm
3
assuming
is on the
3 is.
DS. 3 is
I
on
would
the
love to
DS.
give. I would love to give
Yeah,
Final.
3 is-
Yeah. What was that Game Boy Color? Was it Game Boy Color version? Final Fantasy Adventure, I think it was called.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That looks interesting.
But yeah. No,
Yeah.
3 was the DS version was actually, yeah, you reminded me, it's the first version of, it's the first time Final Fantasy 3 was released on the West, which is crazy to think about. But
Was that Mystic
talking
Quest?
talking about
Yeah.
this just reminded me how much I love this series, and I really I was like playing Octopath Traveler. I think the visual style of that game is phenomenal, and I really think we should get a Final Fantasy like maybe 6 remake or like in this style. So it's kind of like,
No, that's
It's
the
not
subject.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not like really recreating the 16-bit style as much as it is like, because it's like 16-bit sprites and everything, but they're in a 3D like high definition polygonal world, and it just looks like a diorama. And I think
Absolutely.
and like I would love to see like more like Final Fantasy games like remade in this style.
They should show more. Having Locke as a DLC character in the newest Dissidia game, that's only a start. We need more Final Fantasy VI.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten a remake of it.
Square Enix, make it happen.
Well, they're going to start with 7, aren't they? They're going to drag their feet with it.
I mean-
It looks good.
We'll get
7
into
is
that
like-
next week.
I think
We'll
that's a
get into that
different,
next
yeah.
week, but,
That would be a different team. Like this, that would not, the 6 remake would not be as much of an undertaking as the 7 remake is.
That's a topic for part 2, I reckon.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's a topic for part 2. My final thoughts on Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy 1. It's a good game, but leveling up is slow and tedious. Final Fantasy 2. I recently revisited it. Story is pretty good, but it's kind of also a little tedious. In fact, the first 3 are kind of tedious. With their slow pace and how they move, but Final Fantasy IV is definitely a masterpiece. I love it. Final Fantasy V is basically a Final Fantasy with it's basically a Final Fantasy III with a better system, and I loved Final Fantasy V. Gilgamesh. I love Gilgamesh.
Oh, what a great
yes.
character.
The
Excalibur.
Said we didn't bring him up, but my
Well,
favorite
he's in all
line.
the series, pretty much, isn't he? So we can bring him up in part 2.
My favorite line that he says is he realizes that Ferris is a woman dressed up like a male pirate, and so like what he says right before you fight him is, "Let's settle this like men and women who dress like men."
I love early 80s, early 90s Japanese translations.
And of course, Final Fantasy VI. Personally, I don't like it as much as Final Fantasy IV, but it is still also a masterpiece, in my opinion. And that final battle, man.
It's
Heaven,
like
heaven, hell, purgatory, and God.
it's like scary, kind of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh,
Do you
and
think-
one last recommendation. If this sounds interesting to you, definitely go on Spotify and listen to Distant Worlds. Listen to the live renditions of a lot of Final Fantasy music.
Oh, so
but
good.
listen to Dancing Mad. Dancing Mad is the name of the music from the last fight in Final Fantasy VI, and it's basically it takes you on that journey of fighting through heaven, hell, and God.
I think I was gonna say something. I forgot what it was. I was gonna say, like, in terms of like music that really takes you through the fight. I just think that although I mentioned from Final 4 earlier, I actually think the final battle against Exdeath, the way that song builds in, and it's timed with his first attack, if I recall, or was that Final 4? I can't remember if it's the fight against Zeromus in Final 4, whether it's the fight against Exdeath. I think it's the fight against Exdeath. And as he comes in, I'm sure the music is timed with his first attack.
Yeah, I think so.
I could be wrong, but I just think as a kind of like, this is it. This is a fight right here, because he comes in as a total mess, doesn't he? He gets his power. He comes along and he's a complete monstrosity, if I remember. So is Zeromus. Zeromus is a total mess as well.
What happens to Exdeath is he's this guy who wants to control the void, and so the first phase of the fight with him is he's a tree, and then the second phase is he can't control the void anymore. The void is more powerful than him, so the void absorbs him, and you fight him. You fight the void with Exdeath's power.
But it is a genuinely tough fight as well. I remember it taking me a good 8 or 9 goes, and even with the previous knowledge of throwing Gil as an attack, perhaps I went about it with the wrong way of going on a more defensive approach. But and having all those having all those grey mages and one ninja throwing coin. It's a very dumb sounding fight, isn't it? But despite that, there was something. The music was so perfectly dramatic. It genuinely felt like I remember thinking, like, I remember being a bit getting ready for this, being a bit pumped, because it genuinely felt like this is it. This is the throwdown right here. This is SmackDown right here. This is the fight to end all fights. Perfect battle music.
Well, maybe do you think that next time we can maybe, I don't know, cut out a news article so that maybe we could get into the music and get into the story of these things a little bit more, because I think we're running out of time.
Yeah, I think we should dive right into Final Fantasy next time.
I think so too.
Absolutely, let's do it. Yeah, I'm all for that.
All right. Aidan, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Just like follow me on Twitter. That's where I post about all stuff I'm doing. It's at Aidan Simons. Very simple. Not really anything specific to plug right now. I just did a review of Dead Cells, which is a game that's been quite the hot topic in the video game industry lately.
For the wrong reason.
For the wrong reasons.
Yes,
but
I mean, it's
also a really good game.
Yeah, this game deserves attention. So maybe not in this way, but it's a very good game that deserves all the praise it's been getting. And so that's all I have to say.
All right. And David, do you have anything you'd like to?
Oh, sorry, you broke up a little bit then. What was that?
David, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Not so much. Nothing I'm creating right now, but I will say that the Retro Rumble Pod finally has an Instagram. Not that this really taking me that much effort to do it. It just got around to finally doing it. That's finally available. Retro Rumble podcast, or rather at Retro Rumble Podcast on Instagram, and that is where I'll be posting most of my stuff from here on, and also anything related to the podcast. So I do give that a follow.
Great. as for me, of course, you can always find all of our on cultureofgaming.com. You can find me on Twitter at GameOldGameOld. And I have a YouTube channel of the same name. I recently put up a video about Celeste and Meat Boy, and I compared the two. But always, you can find us at cultureofgaming.com.
And get on the Discord, because for all the listeners, get on the Discord. I would love to hear your opinions on Final
Fantasy.
For the sake of this episode, just for the first 6. Well, actually, all of it really, because we can mention anything you guys send to us on the second part of this episode.
Yeah, you know what? Send us things about the second half of Fantasy, and maybe we'll talk about it on the air next week.
Yeah, and if you, what's the best way to get onto the Discord, guys? Is it? I should know this really. Is it going to go directly to cultureofgaming.com and it's on the right?
I
And
believe so.
yeah, and you can join the Discord there, and there's also a dedicated Retro Rumble chat as well. So yeah, you can contact us that way. That'd be the best way.
Awesome. Well, until next time, guys, have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.